Hi guys, this is Justine Lin. My newest single, You Know, is available everywhere you can stream music now. You're listening to On the Porch with Front Porch Music.
Partnership going forward. Now it'd be 11 o'clock here. We gotta let this go through.
Oh, no, it's going to go 11 times. I know how this works.
My clocks growing up were always every 15 minutes.
This one, I put it in here because it's every half hour, but the one out in the parlor is every 15 minutes, and I've got all over the house. I don't know the number that I have of clocks.
Welcome back to another episode of On the Porch with Front Porch Music, hosted by me. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Logan.
And we love our producer, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Sending a special shout out to Jason this week because our podcast is nominated for a CCMA. And it's a very exciting week for us to be putting another episode out.
Congrats, Jenna.
Congrats, Logan.
Thanks.
Congrats, Jason.
Congrats, Jason. He's the true MVP. He's the reason that we actually
don't sound so stupid every time.
Well, we do. We still sound stupid, but he makes us sound less stupid.
Exactly. And congrats to all the nominees for the CCMA Awards. This is going to be super exciting to see y'all in Kelowna. We are hanging out on the porch with Jake Vaadeland. Jake is a top of the country finalist this year, so we will see him at Lasso and in Kelowna.
He has a very unique sound, a very unique look, and it was really interesting to get, we heard all about his history, where he's from, how he got to where he is, how he found his style, both musically and fashionably.
Totally. Jake is a Juno Award winning artist. He is currently nominated for a CCMA for Alternative Country Album of the Year, and he's also the youngest artist in history so far to receive the Road Gold certification. That means he tours a lot.
He's always on the road.
We barely caught him.
So here's our chat with Jake Vaadeland.
What a fancy suit you have on today. I dressed for the occasion as well in a sweater. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Welcome to On the Porch with Front Porch Music, Jake Vaadeland.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here with you. So.
Yeah. Where are you hanging with us from today? Home?
I'm at my home in small town Cut Knife that's in Saskatchewan. Yeah.
It's brilliant we caught you at home because you were on the road a lot.
Yeah, I am always touring, it seems, or doing something with music. But when I am home, I usually get a good stretch, like a week or so, when I do get to come home. So I've been home for a week. I leave tomorrow morning. We're going somewhere to do another shows and then going through the States and all that. So yeah. And
you don't know where you're going yet because you said going somewhere, and you'll figure that out later.
We're going to Gateway Festival, Calgary Folk Fest, and then we're going to try and cross the border and get over to the States. So
good luck.
Yeah. Well. Anyway.
Well, this is probably jumping way ahead, but how do you keep track of your schedule? Because you tour like really no one I have met in this industry. How do you keep track of your schedule? Or does someone else do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really need to. I just kind of know when I'm getting picked up and where we're going, and that I'll be working for a week or two, So I know that, say, tomorrow I'm getting picked up in the morning and we're in the tour van and we're going and I won't be back home for 2 weeks, and I know that we're playing shows. So it doesn't really matter where I'm playing. I'm doing the same thing. It's the same routine. As long as I'm in the bus on time, then then I got brought to where we're supposed to be. So my guitar player is the handyman, so he handles all the odd jobs, like being the tour manager and doing the merch and all that stuff. We like to keep things in-house as much as we can because you find that working with 1,000 other people just doesn't quite work too well. You get things scattered all over the place. So he tells me when I need to be in the van, and we go with his schedule. So I don't keep track of it.
Same thing, different stage.
Basically, for the most part, the show lengths change, but even if I'm notified about that 5 minutes before the show, I just, I pick which variation we're doing, and we do that. I've composed different lengths of the same type of thing, so.
Okay, now let's go back. You did get quite ahead, Logan. Let's
Yeah, my
go.
bad.
Let's go start from the beginning. I forget where you said you're from in small town Saskatchewan, but why don't you set the scene for how you grew up? Where, like, the small town vibe, going to
Yeah.
school, when music became a thing, all that good stuff.
Well, I'm not from this town. I'm not from a town, actually. I live here now, and it's a town of about 400, 500 people.
Got me beat. Usually people say the small town they're from, and I say, mine has 1,000 people, but you got me.
Well, that's what they say. It's 500 people. I have never seen that many people yet, but that's what they say. Unless they're counting the farmers around and stuff. But yeah, so that's Cut Knife here where I live now, and the reason my mother grew up here, but also I stayed here because of how few people there are, and I like the community, the small community, and the peace and quiet. I've gone to Europe enough times to know that I do appreciate the space and the peace and quiet, and no freeways. I like the country roads and all the fields and just going out and hearing absolutely nothing. So that's why I chose to live here. But going back to where I actually grew up was in actually central Saskatchewan, I suppose. I always thought of it as northern Saskatchewan, near Big River, on a farm. Actually, it's a sort of a settlement area. It was a community, I guess, of people, Scandinavian settlers that all settled that area around the same time. Well, anyway, he finished building the homestead house in the late 20s. I know that we've been here for 96 years as of this year, I think, the family. So we're not, we're quite new to the country compared to some other people. And my grandfather was born in 1933 there in that house. And they spoke Norwegian at home and learned English in the schoolhouse down the road. And this place is called Park Valley, is the name that was given to that area where all these settlers were. So you had Park Valley and Lake 4 and Stump Lake, and then of course Ladder Valley, but we never wanted anything to do with them. And then the town was Big River or Debden, and they were about the same distance from each other. And the nearest city was Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. And so I was born in Saskatoon and raised on a farm, on a ranch there in Park Valley by the Sturgeon River that went through, and that separated. The house was right beside the river, actually. My bedroom window was probably 200 feet from the water. And that we were on the lowest part of the valley, right there by the river. And if you looked across, you could see the warden station was a log home of the Prince Albert National Park. So we were very secluded, and the place where I grew up was already a little bit behind the times. Plus, we were there in an area where you weren't allowed to have, right across the river from us, you couldn't have vehicles and quads, and it was the national park, right? So it was all preserved and kept natural, So it was a very, I don't know if the word would be rustic way, a very old time way to grow up. My father had guest ranch. He'd do rides with the horses and stuff, so we'd have teepees and all that. We'd take guests out into the national park on horseback and set up camp and all that, and he'd turn the saddles upside down lean him on the horn, and then put the it's kind of not the prettiest thing to think about now, but at the time it worked out fine. He put the saddle blankets from the horses down on the ground because they were warm, and that's what we'd sleep on by the fire, him and I. And then we'd give the guests the teepees, and we'd cook on the fire for them, make coffee and all that. So that was just a normal thing for me. And the house was heated with a wood stove in the parlor and the kitchen. That was heated by the wood stove, and the bedroom quarters were on a separate. You went down a hallway, and there were 3 bedrooms and a bathroom with a clawfoot bathtub. We didn't have a shower. It was just the old clawfoot bathtub, and those rooms each had their own electric heater in them to heat up the rooms, because the only other way we had to heat was the wood stove, and that was way over in the parlor. And so we had doors to section off the different areas and heat them with what we did. So that's where I grew up, and my grandparents were out there, and all of their kids, so my father's siblings. And my mother and father separated, and mother came back to Cut Knife here, where I am now. Father ended up selling the ranch, and I lived on farm with my grandparents for a couple of years there because I wanted to stay out there. So I worked on cattle farm with them, which I had already been doing before too, but now I actually lived there at the house with them. And there was a neighbor boy down the road that worked on the sawmill with his father, and his dad was really good friends with my father when they were growing up. And there goes the clock.
Oh, there goes the clock.
You warned us.
and then his father's father, my friend's grandfather, grew up with my grandfather in the 30s, and went to school with him, and they were best friends. So it was a generational thing, and all 3 generations were still there. And Daryl Amundsen, this guy that owned the sawmill, him and my father worked in a couple bluegrass bands and stuff in the country music industry in the 80s and 90s. And my father always had quite a bit to do with. My mother was the very musical one and always played in a lot of bands, but my father was the one that had a lot to do with the country music scene. He growing up, he didn't. By the time I was born, he wasn't working as a musician anymore, but he was always he'd go around to the country shows and be the master of ceremonies for a lot of the country programs and stuff, and also for the bluegrass festivals and all that. So I was always in on those. And like I say, getting back to this neighbor boy now, after I'd be working cattle all day or out raking hay in the summertime, we would cut the alfalfa hay, and it was my job to rake it up and get it all dry and whatever, so we could bale it up and make feed for the cattle. And they'd be at pasture out away from the farm, and then in the wintertime bring them back and keep them at the farm, and then you're feeding them every day and stuff like that. So anyway, there was always something to do. Wintertime was terrible because you'd wake up at 6 in the morning, but it would feel like 4 a.m. because it was minus 30 and it was pitch black outside, and go out and haul buckets of grain out to the and come back in, and your face mask is frozen to your face, and all that. Anyway, after that was done, I'd go down the road to Ira's place was his name. And when he was done on the sawmill, him and I, you could be sure, would always get together and play music. And that's when I started learning the banjo. Him and I started learning the banjo together. Was banjo like the first instrument that you picked up? Yeah, yes. Well, I tried playing a little bit of mandolin at one time, but I was more of a listen, learn kind of thing for quite a few years, because it, aside from the work that my mother and father did in the music business, when I was there with just the local people and they had moved away, my parents, it became more of the music had always been just more of a traditional thing, a cultural thing. And the type of music we played, it would fall into the bluegrass genre, but it was our own. Every area that got settled, did have their own variation of some sort of thing. And so people would come over after work day or whatever, and if you saw headlights coming down the driveway, that was the thing that Grandma said all the time, was she was raised, you'd turn the coffee on and get the instruments out, no questions asked. And so that's what she did. And everybody did out there. If people came over to visit, it didn't matter what you were doing. You made time for them and let them into the house, and they never locked the doors or anything. So I grew up listening to these jam sessions and stuff happening in my grandparents' living room, and then started getting in on them when I started learning how to play myself from watching. And the church house down the road, I often tell people that obviously pianos or organs and stuff like that you'd think of in a church, but they were playing fiddle and banjo and guitar and mandolin in church to accompany the music when we'd all gather. All the farmers would gather there on Sundays and Wednesday nights and Friday nights we'd go in that same church building. Then my grandfather had a reel-to-reel analog tape machine, so we'd take that. I had a 1990 Mercury Grand Marquis, was my first car, and it was all rusted out and muffler dragging on the ground. It eventually ripped off, and it's gone now, but so it was a loud car. And every time we'd go up the hill, it would be so loud that Ira would have to plug his ears because he'd get so annoyed from how that vibration would make him go swirly, And we'd get down to the church building and we'd set up this tape machine, and we went to his grandfather's basement and stole as many tapes as he could be forgiven for if he ever found out. And they had old preachers on them. But on the slower speed, we wanted to record at the higher speeds, better quality, so you could hear like a chipmunk, this preacher in the background on the tapes. But we recorded over whoever that was, and we put some of our first recordings on there onto analog tape and recorded an album. And so he moved to Oklahoma, of all places, when his grandfather passed away. They didn't have much left there for them, and then I moved to Cut Knife here with my mother. And bought this nice character home when I graduated, and sort of suits my style, an old 1940s home, filled it with antiques and all that sort of thing. And then I started up with the Sturgeon River Boys about four and a half years ago or so when he left, and we've been on the road with the show ever since. So
crazy.
That's quite the history.
Well, yeah, I could have packed more in there, but
No, that's great. Okay, so obviously you grew up in a very rural, you grew up the way my grandparents grew up is what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. Obviously reflective of your musical style and the things that you sing about. So how does this all fall into the same, how does this all fall in together for you? Like how you grew up and the music you play, and just being able to go out on the road and play music that you love?
Well, it's kind of funny because, like I say, it was more of the music. They didn't think of it necessarily as it would be more so as a hobby and not something you could make your living doing. They sort of wanted me to be, they wanted my father to be a cattle farmer. That didn't work out, so they wanted me to be a cattle farmer, but they're all cattle farmers, so I didn't need to do that. You don't need another one. And I was the only child, thank goodness, because there's so many cousins in the family, and get one of them to take over the farm. I didn't need to do that, but like I say, at the end of the day, it was sort of a cultural, traditional thing. The music was, and it wasn't something that you took on the road. It was music for pastime. It wasn't entertainment for the masses, And my grandfather was really into the country music in the 1940s and 50s. Of course, he would have been my age in the early 50s. He's 92 now, I think. And he'd always order from the WSM all the colored pictures of Hank Williams and Ernest Tubb and hand colored. So he's got all that sort of stuff, and he was very interested in that. So, of course, talking to him and looking at these pictures and sort of seeing who these artists were, and Wilf Carter, for example, was a big Canadian country artist and my grandfather's favorite artist, actually. So I started getting in on that and watching the old Grand Ole Opry, black and white, Martha White sponsored shows. They always had a sponsor of some sort, or sponsors, Pet Milk, something like that. And I watched how they how they organized that, and I was quite fascinated by, it wasn't just the music. People weren't standing up there in straight lines at these microphones all separated with monitors pointing towards them so that they could hear the mix and all this, just playing the music as perfect as it is on the record. But they were actual people up there doing this whole thing live. You couldn't cut and do things, different takes, all that. It was, you had to play the songs and make the banter, do the skits, make time to do the advertisements for the sponsors, and it all was from point A to point B and nothing in between. No cuts. And I was fascinated by their ability to do that, and so I wanted to bring that back into the show. So I wanted to have my own unique thing that nobody had quite done before, but also stick to that value of the music industry that was there at one time. Not the music industry, the entertainment business, and so, add sponsors and all these sorts of things and compose this thing, but also still my own original music, our own unique sound. Once the Sturgeon River Boys got in on it, they brought all their styles to the table, and we came up with this thing. I don't really know how to describe it, but I do know that we get in on all the different festivals, the bluegrass festivals, the folk festivals, country music festivals, festivals that have heavy metal and rock bands, and they're having us there too. So we kind of fit into every genre with what we do, and then we just keep, we bring back that entertainment.
Well, it's interesting, like when you hear your music, because you're so obviously heavily influenced by the music of like the 40s and the 50s and all that.
Yeah.
But also still having a way to make it sound modern for like today's audience. So when people are watching, like they feel both nostalgia and also like a new experience.
Yeah, no, that was the idea. Like, don't want to, like I say, sound exactly like, or sing a bunch of covers from those times, or imitate Johnny Cash or Elvis or whoever. But that's no reason to make your music sound like a badger stuck in one of those grinders in the sink, So it's still fine to make your music sound wholesome and natural and real and realistic, actually. But have it be new, new words, new things, words that relate to today's problems. But you don't have to make the music sound like whatever that Justin Bieber's doing or something like that. You can keep it wholesome and true and more natural, and that's what I wanted to do, more down to earth like that.
How did you find a band that wanted to do that too?
Well, it took some training. It's
suit fittings,
a lot of those, and teaching them how to dress and how to compose themselves on stage. There was the stage presence is a big thing that a lot of garage bands or whatever you want to call them aren't aware of. Like I say, it's hard to explain. It's such a sophisticated professional business that people don't even realize sometimes, and even performers themselves, I don't think, realize that. But from day one, I never allowed any alcohol on the stage, no brands of alcohol on the stage, no beer cans, anything like that. If they're taking pictures of us, if any of the guys have a drink, they have to put it down or put it behind their backs, because, that's fine, but you can't have any pictures of us or a limited amount of pictures of us with that going on. And, wearing suits on stage, don't be a dope on stage either. Make sure you're smiling and or at least looking serious and professional. You're going to work, right? So you can't be showing up in sweatpants and a hoodie. These people are coming in paying sometimes $50 a ticket to sit there and listen to.
Jonah, he's looking at you wearing a hoodie right now.
Well, no. That, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
we're going there. I'm not paying $50 to be here. That's the thing, that these people are coming, and a lot of them too. And you can't show up possessed by a demon to put on a performance for them. You gotta know what you're doing. And so it took a little while, and I couldn't be happier with the boys I have in the group now. But it has been 4.5 years, and only in the last half a year have I noticed how well everybody has fallen into their place now. And we just have this perfect, wonderful, I couldn't, it just keeps getting rounder and rounder and smoother as we go along. So it wasn't just perfect at first. They didn't just fit into it right away at first. It took a little bit of time to get that understanding across of how professional and important the professionalism is in what we do anyway, and I think should be across the board in the entertainment business as a whole. But for myself anyway, I think it's important.
Totally.
So for those who are listening to the podcast, your style, like your fashion, is very integral to the part of your brand and your music and your show. You wear a lot of old timey suits and a lot of you always look really sharp. How important is fashion to you in this entertainment business, and where do you find your suits?
He's looking for recommendations.
Well, it's very important. We, just to look striking and catch eyes, and even on travel days, I recommend, because I'm still paying you to be here, right? On the travel days, I still pay everybody, and so and you're in a work vehicle and all that sort of thing. So when you step out, you go in to a restaurant or whatever, it'd be nice to, and I'm paying per diems to pay for the meal, so it'd be nice if we're all looking like we're there for business. And so, and it helps promotion-wise too, because then people see us all walk in like that.
And they go, who's that?
What's that?
And they go, who's that? Why are you dressed like that? Well,
then either they recognize us nowadays, which is good, because if you keep that brand up just on off days too, people, they remember you. They remember that's who that is. Or they want to know who this group of daft people are that have all these clothes on like that. And so we get all kinds of questions, and then I have business cards, and we hand them out when people come and talk to us. So there's that part of it, but that's on the show anyway. And those boys, the bass player, he dresses like that every day, just like me, and the guitar player, I mean, he's good at making sure he's got his shirt tucked in. He dresses a little more country, but he's still pretty sharp. The banjo player, I won't even go there, but he dresses up good for the show, and that's all that matters. But you would hardly recognize him if you saw him. If you saw him, he kind of looks like from the 90s, sort of a rapper or something with purple shirt and red pants or something like that. He'll do what he needs to do, but also looks very striking that way too. He catches your eye anyway. And so that on the show, I wear my work clothes. They're the sophisticated suits that have been custom made with the tassels and the what would you call them there? The music notes and all that sort of thing. But then this is what I wear on a regular day. I find this quite comfortable. It's a linen jacket, a very, very nice, breathable shirt. And of course, collar's loose. I find it very comfortable. I don't notice anything about it. Baggy linen pants from the 1940s with the pleats. It feels like I'm wearing a dress. You can't even feel the pant legs rubbing against your legs so it's just like wearing sweatpants, except it looks better, And so I go out in the garden, and this is my work jacket. It's got dirt and stuff on it and all that, and it's it's worn and what do you call it, pilling and all that stuff. I go out, and today I'm going out to mow the lawn and run my cultivator stick through the garden before I go on tour, and this is what I'm wearing for the day. So it is important, I suppose, but it's also become just the normal everyday thing for me. So I don't think twice about it. And as far as where I find the suits, we get a lot of them from, or we did at one time get a lot of them from Better Off Duds in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And we usually include a little ad for them. I wrote a jingle for them, and we include that on the show locally sometimes. We've done it overseas too. People don't really know what we're talking about, but we do it anyway. And they actually had that jingle on radio for a little while locally to advertise. We recorded it for them. We have gotten some sponsorship from RW & Co. as well, which isn't vintage clothing or suits.
No, but they have good suits.
But it works for. They've lined out some of the guys with suits a little more custom to what we look, because the modern suits aren't high-waisted pants; they're so low, and the fly on my pants would be about a foot long, and on those other ones, you just got these tiny little. Anyway, I won't get into it, but it's quite it's quite the thing that they're doing with the low-waisted pants and the long ties. I guess everyone wants to start wearing their ties like Donald Trump now, all the way down past the chair. And it's not my cup of tea. I like to keep mine up pretty short. But anyway, and where else have we gotten? Lots of vintage clothing stores around the world now we've stopped at. I couldn't name all of them. And honestly, Value Village or like a thrift store like that too. A lot of stuff come from there. So it's, yeah.
Last question before we drop the suit talk. Have you got any of like your grandfather's suits or something like that you've had like tailored to you? Because I think that would be really sentimental.
He was too big.
Too big to even tailor her?
Yeah, well, yeah, he was. Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely want to keep some of that. He was a farmer, so he had, or what is a farmer. I mean, he's still there on the farm. He doesn't do the work anymore, but he had nice pants and shirts and stuff that he wore for work too, like out on the farm. People always think that the Wranglers and jeans and all that kind of thing. We didn't wear that on the farm. We wore pleated trousers with suspenders or belts, and plaid shirts or button-up shirts tucked into that. And nowadays people think that's dressing up to go to church. But that's what Grandpa wore to go out and work. And then if he was going to church, he'd put a vest on and a bolo. He didn't have a tie like this. He had a bolo tie with a metal. Anyway, and his cowboy hat and pants, the same pants he'd work with, except the ones that didn't have patches and holes in them and stuff like that. So he had a few suit jackets, but they were they're way too big.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough. So we cannot wear grandpa's suits, even though that'd be really cute. And if you change your mind, this was my idea officially, okay?
Oh yes. Well, I do have some of them, but I can't fit them. But
it's fair enough. It's fair enough. Okay, I think we need to talk about Top of the Country, because you're a finalist in the Top of the Country competition, which is really cool. So I think at this point you've done the semi-finalist thing, recorded a video live off the floor, and then you've probably been to Nashville by now and played CMA Fest because it's August, or almost August.
Unfortunately, yes.
Holy moly. What else is going on with Top of the Country? How's it been, and what do you have to look forward to still before we hit the final show in September?
Well, it's been good. It's been extra work, but I appreciate the opportunity.
This year's top three, like, to me, is such an interesting and unique top three. Each and every one of you are completely separate and completely different, and I have no idea how it's going to go this year.
No, I can't even bother to think about it because I wouldn't want to be one of the judges because I don't know how you can, it equals out so well. Like what three of us could stand out any more than the other. I don't know how it's going to work because, Sully's had so much success in just as such a young age in just the last couple of years, and Nolene, of course, is so unique in her own way, and I consider myself quite unique in branding-wise and music-wise, and Nolene, too, with her group, and her and I become good friends. I think anyway. Maybe she wouldn't tell you the same thing, but we worked a couple festivals. Yeah, I just saw her a week ago at somewhere. Anyway, we've gotten to be good friends and working together, working the crowds and all that sort of thing. And it's just hard to want to win against her or Sully, and of course then you get to know them and become good friends.
I think this is a great place for us to land. This has been very fast. This time flew. But I think we will see you at Lasso next month because we will be there also. So that's super fun. We'll see you there. Where else are you playing? You're about to head out to you're going to try and cross the U.S. border in a few days.
We're going to try, yeah. And maybe you'll see us on the news if we get detained. But we're gonna try getting over there. And so yeah, we're going to through the States, and then we will be going to Europe again, to England for August and September, and we're going to be working a lot in Europe through the next year and into 26 as well. So yeah, always just traveling around, keeping the show out on the road. So
yeah, I love that. That's exciting. And then we'll see you in
Kelowna.
That's where we're going.
Okay.
Kelowna.
All right,
okay, Jake.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of On the Porch with Front Porch Music. We're so lucky to be able to chat with artists and make episodes like this one. If you like the podcast, remember to rate and review us, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. It's the easiest way to support the show. Remember to check out frontporchmusic.ca to keep up with new music releases, exclusive artist interviews, and more. We'll catch you again on the Porch in a couple of weeks. On the Porch is hosted by Logan Miller and Jenna Weiser, and produced and edited by Jason Saunders. That's me. Our theme song was written, produced, and performed by Owen Wrigley.